we're doing something a little bit different today. I want to talk about the Grisha magic system and Grisha orders. I hope this will be helpful to people who got a bit confused about how it all works, especially for those of you who started with Six of Crows before Shadow and Bone. I started the Grisha books with Six of Crows. I read Shadow and Bone afterwards, and the magic is explained more in detail in the Shadow and Bone trilogy. Also, with the Netflix show coming up, some people might be interested in getting a primer on the magic system, or maybe you just like to remember because it's been quite some time since this series was released. I will only talk about the basics so as not to give spoilers. So let's see how this will go. First of all, what are Grisha? Grisha are basically what the magic users are called in this world, particularly in Ravka. The magic users in this world are not welcome in many places. For example, Fjerdans actually have witch hunters that hunt Grisha. But the main events of the Shadow and Bone series take place in Ravka, and even though there's some level of suspicion towards the Grisha in Ravka too, they have a whole army of Grisha. Ravka has two armies, and the magical elite, if you will, are the soldiers of the second army. They have their own special uniform called kefta. They're like long robes or coats, and each Grisha order has their own colors, so that's how you distinguish their divisions. Grisha fashion is important, so I'll let you know all their colors, including the subdivision embroidery colors, as we talk about them later on. The magic itself is called small science in this world, as the way the magic works is through manipulation of matter in a molecular level. It's usually performed through hand motions, so most Grisha cannot perform magic if their hands are tied. Grisha has various divisions, and we will talk about them later, but each Grisha has a certain affinity to a certain kind of matter. And this gets us to the fundamental idea behind small science, and that is like calls to like. Usually children start displaying this affinity at a young age. They are tested and then taken to be trained. As I mentioned, Grisha can only manipulate matter. They cannot create it out of nothing. However, there are a few instances where Grisha can manifest certain type of creatures, such as Volcra or Nichevoya. Especially Volcra seem to continue existing once they're created, but they're still basically part of shadow summoning, which is a rare type of Grisha ability. It is also possible to enhance Grisha abilities using amplifiers and stimulants. Amplifiers are worn. They can be items such as necklaces or bracelets, but they have to be earned in some way. Not any Grisha can take any amplifier and just wear it. Also, each Grisha can only wear a single amplifier. However, there is an exception. It is rumored that an ancient saint was able to create amplifiers that could be worn together. It is also possible to have certain stimulants, such as Yurdaparam, enhancing Grisha abilities, basically giving the Grisha finer control over their abilities, but those substances can be addictive and deadly to the Grisha. Even though they turn the abilities into an overpowered version, they might not be worth using, at least not by their own will. Alright, now that we've talked about how Grisha magic works generally, let's get into some details and talk about the specific Grisha orders and their powers. There are three main Grisha orders, and they have ranks among themselves as well. So from the highest rank to the lowest rank, they are the Corporal Key, the Order of the Living and the Dead, the Ethereal Key, the Order of the Summoners, and the Material Key, the Order of the Fabricators. Let's start with the lowest rank and make our way up. The Material Key, the Order of the Fabricators, are like the science nerds of Grisha. It's the closest order to actual science. They are the least respected, but they're crucial to catch up with enemy innovations. Fabricator magic requires a certain level of research and experimentation. They wear purple keftas. They have two subdivisions. First one is called Durasts. Durasts are more about altering materials to give them certain properties. For example, Grisha keftas are bulletproof. That is thanks to Durasts. The first army does not have bulletproof clothing. A lot of soldiers don't even know that Grisha do have bulletproof uniforms. They would probably resent them if they did. There's also Grisha steel, but the important thing to remember is, again, they don't create materials. They just transform its composition, shape, or texture to enhance its properties. And they wear gray embroidery on their keftas. The second division of Material Key is called Alchemy. They are also similar to Duras in the sense that it is again similar more to actual science. So Duras are closer to material science, while Alchemy is closer to chemistry, as the name implies. Basically, they develop potions and explosives, and they wear red embroidery on their purple keftas. After the Material Key, let's move on to the second ranking Grisha, which is Ethereal Key, the Order of the Summoners. The Ethereal Key is the easiest to understand because they're basically elemental magic, very similar to Avatar. So you have firebenders, waterbenders, and airbenders. There are no earthbenders, but the rest of the divisions are pretty straightforward. Firebenders are called Inferni, waterbenders are called tidemakers, and airbenders are called squallers. There are a couple of exceptions, and we will talk about those as well. The first subdivision of Ethereal Key is the Inferni. They wear red embroidery on their keftas. They manipulate fire. As with all the Grisha, they cannot create fire. As summoners, they summon combustible gases like hydrogen and methane. Then they need to create a spark somehow to get fire, so they carry flints with them. Once they make fire, then they can manipulate it. The next subdivision of summoners is tidemakers. They can summon and control water by altering the temperature and pressure. They wear pale blue embroidery on their keftas. And the last subdivision is squallers. They can change air pressure to create storms. They can hurl objects and people around. There's also a more creative way of using them. There are flying ships in this universe. You can use a bunch of squallers to make your ship fly, basically. It's not common, but they exist. So these were the main divisions, but there are also two rare subdivisions of summoners. They are shadow summoners and sun summoners, and even though Ethereal Key are second in rank to Corporal Key, these two are actually highest in rank. I won't go much detail in those, and I will let you discover them for yourself. It's also worth mentioning that the summoners usually work in pairs. The Inferni pair up with each other, whereas tidemakers and squallers pair up together, and of course shadow and sun summoners pair together. The final order of Grisha and the highest in rank are the Corporal Key, the Order of the Living and the Dead. They wear red keftas and their subdivisions are Heartrenders, Healers, and Tailors. The Corporal Key abilities focus on the human body. The word Corporal Key derives from the word corpus, which means body. Let's start with the Tailors. Tailors are a rarer subdivision. They wear blue embroidery. They can basically change people's appearances. These could be small changes like the eye color, or can be big changes like making someone look entirely like someone else. In early Shadow and Bone, they're mostly like makeup artists. They make you look like yourself, but prettier. Tailors are very important for Grisha's self-esteem, I guess. The next subdivision of the Corporal Key is the most dangerous one. They are Heartrenders. They wear black embroidery. They inflict most damage in battle, so they are the most valuable to the army. They're sort of overpowered and most feared Grisha. They can do a lot of things. They can basically force choke you. They can damage internal organs. They can also change your emotional state and put you in depression. They can slow your pulse and make you unconscious. They can also slow the healing process. Thankfully, the enemy needs to be within eyesight range at least. Under stimulants like Judah Harem, they are pretty much unstoppable. They can do mind control and their range increases too, but they don't need any stimulants to practically crush your heart from a distance. Thankfully, we also have healers, so they can put it back together. Healers are the last subdivision for the Corporal Key. They wear gray embroidery. Their names are pretty clear, I guess. They can heal wounds and mend bones. They're sort of like overpowered medics. Although they do have a limitation in the sense that they can't heal wounds inflicted by shadow summoner creatures such as the Nechevoya. There's one more strange and rare subdivision. I'm not going to go into details to avoid spoilers, but it's possible to have Corporal Key that can control the cells of the dead instead of the living. I'll let you discover how that works by yourself. And on that note, we conclude our Grisha Magic Basics course. I hope you found this helpful and fun. Hopefully both. If you did, please leave a like to let me know. And if you'd like to see more Grisha content, don't forget to subscribe. There's already a lot of Grisha related content on this channel. There's a whole Leigh Bardugo playlist. I'll link that in the description in case you're interested. That's it for now, and I hope to see you next time. Contemplate.